everyone.
Hi.
Welcome back to Richual. This is part 2, and I am with the lovely Aiesha Cosmos. She's a divine high priestess who is walking her path, walking in her calling, and it is so divine to be here with you. Thank you once again, Aiesha, for being here with us. And it's just an honor. I'm so grateful that we get to hear more about your story and your journey and how all of this has come into fruition and into existence and here in this room for us to enjoy. Oh, so deeply. Meeting you was a gift for me, and I don't want to go too deeply into the journey of connecting with you, but I know that it was through divine intentions, and divine, and then how do I say? I know the divine connected us, and I'm very grateful because since I've met you, I've gone on a journey, and I've done many different. I've done readings with you, I've done ceremonies with you, and it has been very life changing. Each one of them has done something different for my life. And so I want to, I invite you, and with so much appreciation and gratitude that you're open to sharing your services. And if you could just talk to the viewers more about what you do and the different ceremonies that you offer, I think it would be really great to be able to share this with the world.
Thank you. I love having this opportunity also, and I love being able to share with you all, and also with you have been so beautiful to witness your own transformation and the way you stepped into your own initiations. And all I could ever do was just create the invitation and point out that, hey, it might be a good idea to have a funeral ceremony right now because I don't think the one driving your life is the one that should be at the wheel anymore. Maybe she needs to actually be put to rest. She's definitely done lots for you. She's a survivor. She's been able to really just make it work with whatever she had. But now she doesn't have enough resources to step into the next level. No, and so the different ceremonies that I do and the readings are designed to be able to support different life transformations. And so there's the birthday reading, which is for being able to get into that is like the most introductory. Now you just get a reading. It doesn't take any participation other than just being an active listener. And I channel all of the Mayan wisdom for the person, and then we get it recorded, and I make a visual chart for people then to be able to look at what their signs look like and start getting a little bit more connected. People can also always download by signing on to my mailing list. They download a PDF workbook for my workshops when I teach Mayan astrology, which I used to do way more in the past. But it's got the little definitions of each one of the Mayan signs, so then people can also start becoming more immersed into Mayan astrology because it is completely a fully different system from Western astrology or Vedic astrology or any Chinese astrology. It's like its own system. So when I channel a Mayan reading for somebody, I really become that person because my own Mayan astrology is designed, or I was made so that I would be able to be so empathetic that I'm actually able to see images and feelings and, just get this ideas in my mind that I really don't know where they're coming from, but I just see these stories. And so then I'm weaving the stories with what I have of knowledge of the Mayan signs. And then each reading is like its own unique channeling for each individual person that is sitting with me. And this can be done over the phone, and they also are done in person where people can come to the sacred temple at Sirenis by the sea with the beautiful cenote and everything gorgeous. Or I can also, if they're staying in Tulum or Playa del Carmen, I can make my way there. I also do the oracle sessions with the Mayan cards that I designed for bachelorette parties, I also do wedding readings for couples when they're gonna get married. You can also do the like transits of a relationship, like if you already have your beloved and you want to see how the relationship is changing, how everybody's growing, what is the transforming purpose of the relationship, and how to keep staying connected with the way that everybody's growing and changing. And so it's a way of tracking everybody's individual personal growth and how the relationship's personality, not that it's its own identity, is also shifting and changing through time. And so it allows for people to not take it personally when the relationship is feeling different, because every time it has its way that it is perfectly aligned. It's just not aligned how it was last year or the year before that. And so being able to float with the consciousness changes of the relationship is very, very useful to allow for the individuals in the relationship to grow and change, and also for the relationship to grow and change.
Beautiful. It's significant because it makes me think that, like, just as we're communicating this, making you realize, or me realize, that relationships in general have movement in them. Like, they are going to shift. It's a part of life. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, and the Mayan calendar gives us a way to be able to tap into the sacredness of it. Know what is the divine purpose of it being this now.
Oh, wow.
What is the divine purpose of you being here in this way now, and not before your last birthday? So then there's also the vision quest reading, and so that is really useful for people wishing to tune into their divine purpose, but to get more of like a big, like a quest. It's like you're going on this big quest, and now you're getting all this information. What is my blind spot? What is supporting me? What are my challenges? What is it that spirit is calling me into? And so there's also the readings for the 13-year cycles of your life, where you can see what are the big chunk, sections of life that have their own purpose and their own overarching reason, and how we have these seasons where we develop projects that are so powerful when we are aware that that's what we are doing, because everything's always happening. Even if we don't get the Mayan reading, it's still going to be there. But it's very different living something that is just naturally happening without being aware of it, than to be able to be aware that this is what's happening, witness it happening, and know how to harness it, and how to actually be empowered by it, and how to navigate it in the most eloquent, efficient, beautiful, loving way. Because some cycles are mystery cycles, some cycles are challenging cycles, just like also relationships. And some can be empowering, others complementary, leading to stagnation. And so there's just so many different ways that no matter what's going on, there is power, there's a gift, there is beauty, there is a reason. And instead of just being wishful thinking, oh, everything happens for a reason, and then hoping one day you understand that reason, this is like disclosing the reason, but in such poetic, amazing, beautiful wisdom terms that actually elevates our understanding of the moment, elevates our understanding of relationships. It elevates our understanding of ourselves, our passions, our talents, and why we are the way we are.
It sounds multi-dimensional as well.
Yeah. Well, Mayans were absolute dream weavers, and they totally practiced lucid dreaming, and they were able, like the high jaguar priests and the jaguar priestesses and all of the amazing, really developed beings back then that had full command of our quantum light biology. They were able to completely do feats of power and consciousness that nowadays people think it's science fiction, but it's not science fiction. It's just parts of ourselves that, since people are not doing the practices, they cannot develop. It's like if you wanted to be a jiu-jitsu master, well, you actually have to practice every single key, every single lock, every single way of submission, and then learn how to use them in different combinations, and then all of a sudden just flow like a boa constrictor. And so then when we are wishing to know the full extent of our human light technology, we need to have the practices that allow us to tap into that purpose of the body, that purpose of consciousness, that purpose of the dream time, that purpose of sexuality, that purpose of nutrition. And so there's like so many different parts of us that cannot be understood, tapped into, or developed and harnessed as our power if we don't have the practices that are designed for that. And the Maya teachings and the Toltec teachings and the sacred sexuality teachings that are truly coming from the real source, because there's also obviously many new age variations of very lazy, very washed out, non-integrity and very limited understanding, because it's not going to the source. Like whenever in ancient times, say like the Toltecs, a Toltec student, an apprentice, would always be learning from a realized human teacher. And so you are learning from the one that is already embodying the result, instead of learning from an apprentice of the teacher, right, which is somebody that still doesn't have the embodiment of the result. Right. And so that's why when the teacher is ready, the student will come, because this teacher has to become that vessel of the teachings that is the living wisdom of the flesh. Beautiful. For then the student to be able to learn from the frequency and from the consciousness and from the wisdom and the perspective of that person, not from what is coming out of its mouth. It's like no amount of regurgitated knowledge can become wisdom without the practice. And it's very hard to know where to surrender into the practice when you don't even really know what the practice is going to transform you into, And so that's why following teachers that are not themselves already in a way self-realized is always going to lead us nowhere, because we're following somebody that isn't even embodying the wisdom of the teachings that they profess to teach. So it's that's why I think it's really magical that I didn't learn from teachers. I learned from books written by teachers that are no longer alive in many instances. And so the Mayan calendar is very unique, because the Mayan calendar is a system that in practicing the system, it becomes a teacher, because it unlocks the divine synchronicities and consciousness of divine spirit in reality and the nature of the dream that we are in. So the Mayan calendar is like an unlocker of perception that allows you to see the divine mystery and to be able to have the divine quest and to have your divine purpose, and like all these things that all of a sudden are happening in real time. You're not like imagining it. It's like so literal. It is completely shocking. And so it totally destroys your social conditioning foundations. And also that you think, square, everything's just square. And all of a sudden, the Mayan calendar comes and it's like, whoa, everything is consciousness, everything, but you're not like reading it in a book and then wishful thinking that you believe it. You're actually like in it, and it's just like taking you by surprise and taking your breath away and completely undoing the foundations of your disjointed belief structure. And so it's just so powerful that only the practice of the Mayan calendar can give you that, And then also me, by doing the readings for people, I am able to give that to people by giving them their own chart, their own process, their own vision quest, their own relationship reading, their own thing. And then moving into ceremonies, the ceremonies can be like, I always feel is very important at first to maybe recapitulate, like say there's a few people that before even doing a funeral ceremony, I led them through doing a ceremony of recapitulating the most recent relationship. So one man had a 30-year marriage that had become super toxic and really crazy. And so he had to transmute that so that then he would have more energy for the next work, because they're getting so intense and full on. And that was also the one thing that he felt was most crippling, because he was like, after this 30-year marriage with this toxic person, I don't have creativity anymore. I cannot think of projects. I'm an entrepreneur, and so now what am I gonna do? And so I was like, well, we're gonna kickstart it again by flushing the energy from this relationship from your body, and also for you claiming responsibility for the relationship you created. No, this is not like something that happened to you. You made it happen. And so after we did that ceremony, I don't think it even been like 2 months. He already opened a new restaurant. And like he's like, I want to do the next ceremony for the blessing of my new restaurant. And he's like, I've been having all these projects, all these ideas. And so it was like completely like instantaneously. Like a couple weeks later, I talked to him. He's like, oh my God, I'm like a totally different person. And it's so amazing because the ceremonies, it's like, I don't do the work for you. You know that.
Right.
You do the work for you. I am there to guide you. What are the practices you need to do? Focus on this, focus on that. And then when we're doing it at the temple, I have all the tools there of all the herbology things, all the different resins, all the different flowers, all the crystals, all the stuff for doing all the different in-person practices. But when I do them long distance with people over Zoom, which I also guide the ceremonies long distance, I give my clients a list of all the different items they need to acquire before. And so you got to know that also.
I did know that
you were
at the temple
yeah.
and one far distance. Yeah,
so in Boston, I gave you the whole list, and you got, and once you had your written task, you know, because the one we did in Boston was a divine feminine initiation. No, so first we did the funeral at my house when it was very apparent that it was very important for that older version to die completely.
To get rid of her.
Gone. And then once she was gone and you were in that limbo nothing, and I remember we talked once you were back in Boston a couple of weeks and you were like, I don't know, I don't feel anything, I can't connect with nothing. I was just like, we have to do the divine feminine initiation now because you need to get married to the divine. That is your boss, that is your king, that is your number one, and he's the one that's gonna guide and rule your life. So now we have to get you ready for that. No, so then you started writing all these things about your sexual relationships and all the stuff about your partnerships and your connection with the divine, I mean, with male figures and stuff. And so then we did that recapitulation. And then you also had all the things, and you got your own flowers, you set up your own altars. Like, I just guided you through the whole thing.
Oh my goodness. And my business, like my service, my life work has elevated since then too. Like, it was incredible. I'm just very, very grateful. Just thinking back, as you're communicating it, I'm thinking of the journey and like, I remember you communicating, like you would talk about a wedding, you would talk about a funeral, and you didn't understand it at first. And it was as if you knew what I needed before I did. And the last time I visited the temple, there was a woman who she went for one ceremony, but then changed and did something completely different. And I wanted to ask, how does that normally go for you? Do you often just know exactly what your clients need, or do they come knowing what they need as like what? How is that journey for you? I know for me, you definitely seem to be very aware of what service was going to be helpful in the time period of my life, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, I do tend to just sort of feel it because I witness a person, I feel the person, I feel their consciousness, I feel like sort of what may be there. But then also sometimes when it's not so clear, because sometimes even the person may know. No, it's like, oh, I have to clean this thing. Or like maybe not so clear to them, but just to me. Like also I have this other beautiful divine friend that is also my client. And she had had a 13-year marriage, and it had been really shocking and shattering and so many different challenges about it. And so I was like, okay, well, before we can move on with, you know, the next things, let's first flush this out. And so then after we flushed this out, all these different things came up in legal stuff that was stuck for 7 years from that old relationship, and everything to get cleared, and everything just started coming up out of its own volition. You know, it's like the work is so powerful that all the fibers that are connected to all the stories that we are transmuting and dealing with all of a sudden start becoming available for the release and for the conclusion and for the healing and for all these things, and you have enough energy to do it because of the ceremony work. No, so it's like the ceremony gives you the power by reclaiming the past, reclaiming your energy, flushing that which does not belong to you, and then also taking responsibility for it all. That then it gives you the sort of the steering wheel in your hands, now the reins, and so now all of a sudden you can drive the continuing transformation. And so then after we did that, then we moved into doing her funeral ceremony, which was so intense and powerful. And it took her forever to get all the things about herself to be written down. And it was like really, really, really like a big process for her. Like it kept like getting prolonged and prolonged, but she was like more, more, more. There was just more pieces of herself that she needed to shed. And continually she was realizing, oh, this part of me too, and this also sabotages myself, and this I also disrespect myself, and this way I don't love myself. And so then things she had never even thought about or realized all of a sudden started coming to the surface, so that then she could notice it. And so then after we did that funeral ceremony, now we are getting prepared on Saturday. We're going to do her divine feminine initiation and her marriage to spirit. And so now she's like so excited. We're getting everything ready, and it's like gonna be the whole house and the flowers and the bathtub. I have to fix the gas tank. There's like all these things that have to happen by Saturday so that we'll be ready for her divine initiation. But yeah, like sometimes when I want to have more guidance myself from spirit into what might be some specific things that may be important for this that I might not be able to completely see or understand, I always do the oracle reading at the beginning of the ceremony, and we ask directly from guidance. Like, so what is the divine gift you're giving here right now? What is that's going to empower your work moving forward after the ceremony? You know, what you're going to have to be aware of after today. And then there's also the blind spot. You know, what is it that is so important for you right now that you have not yet begun to see that is important? And a lot of times the cards that come up are to me totally predictable. And I was like, I knew that was gonna come up. I knew that was gonna come up. I knew that. But sometimes I am surprised. Like, oh, really? That came up? How interesting. So that is what is also so fantastic for me, is that this is not like some monotone, weird regurgitation of something. This is like a living system of living wisdom of the ancient Toltec, the ancient Maya, the ancient sacred sexuality, like all these ancient things that are like, I sometimes see them as like divine wisdom dragons that have their own power, their own volition, their own energy, their own intention, and their own medicine, and the way that they want to initiate you, you know, the way that they want to give you the wisdom, the messages. And so because I am just like in service to like riding these dragons now and being taught by them and continuously initiated by them, and all the time being so willing to surrender everything I know for seeing more, understanding more, and so never believing that like I know anything. It's like I don't know anything, because it's this living systems and the person and the way the person is changing. Like the people that I work with, that I get to witness how they continue to grow after. It's like I'm in university. It's like I'm just, and they come and tell me stories. This happened to me, and this happened to me, and now this and that. I'm just like, wow,
Amazing.
wow, because that is the teaching, seeing, because I went through all these ceremonies and everything for myself, by myself, on my own. I didn't have anybody doing the ceremonies for me. I invented my ceremonies for myself because I come from such a hardcore background, and I had all this also crazy things as a little girl, and the broken home, and I also had super beautiful, divine, pristine heaven from birth until 9 years old. But then after, there was like the hell, and it had to be the huge trauma, the shattering, all of this intense pain, and that lasted for a really long time. And so I definitely had hardcore anxiety. If I was, with like say a boyfriend, and we would go to bed, and maybe he would wake up to go pee in the middle of the night, and if I would wake up and he wasn't in the bed, automatically my first knee-jerk reaction and feeling was, I have been abandoned. He's left me here. Like even if I was at his house and there's nowhere, where's he gonna go? There was no rational thought, and so I spent like 20 years bawling my eyes out, like crying all the time, always picking the wrong partners, always being in pain, always feeling abandoned, always feeling like disregarded, unappreciated, like my parents don't think about me, my family doesn't think about me, like my friends don't care about my birthday, like the most like random ridiculous things that to me now is just like
You
so
don't even
sweet.
realize that these are thoughts that are taking place sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I did because I am so deep in my feelings, and so I would feel things so deeply that for me it wasn't like, and I've also not been a consumer person, so I haven't been able to brush it aside with new shoes or a fancy hairdo or like drinking. Like I never had any of those escape mechanisms, and so for me it was just the pain, and being in the pain. And then obviously I had a Scorpio moon, so the wallowing in the pain and the feeling of the pain, and it's like I'm like hitting myself over and over and over with the deceit, with the loss, with the abandonment, with the anxiety, with the and it was just so painful. But it's so amazing because I got given these teachings and I got initiated into this path when I was 20. And also growing up, I come from a family of witchcraft. I actually have a lineage of witchcraft. My great grandaunt, she was a witch, and then also like my great grandmother's daughter was the niece of the original witch, was also a witch. And then my grandfather's youngest brother also became a healer, and he actually used to heal like the presidents and elite politicians and industry leaders of Mexico. Like he used to heal the man from prostate cancer in 3 months. He was a super hardcore healer. But then, my family has such a funny rebellious streak. After he got sick of being in the elite with the Cartier and like all the Mont Blanc and the Gucci shoes or whatever, he just got rid of everything, closed the office, and moved to Puebla. And now he just has like all these cats and dogs and a little ATV, and he grows tomatoes and trout, and he heals all the village people for free. Like he heals. I actually got to witness him heal a guy that got gangrene in his leg, and the leg was gonna be almost amputated, and he actually totally reverted it back to a normal leg within 3 months.
Amazing.
Yeah, so
Amazing.
I don't know anything what my uncle does. It's not like I was initiated into anything with my family. It's more like there's just this calling, And so at 19, I actually did a ceremony. That was my first actual ceremony that I actually did to cut the lineage. I didn't want to follow the steps of anybody in my family. I didn't want to have anything to do with their way of using their gift. Because also my father had always told me how I was the one to inherit it because I have the years. Like, I'm like, it can only be passed down between members of the bloodline that have 7, 14, 21, 28 years of difference. And so with me and my dad, he was the one that was supposed to get it, but then he never really did anything with it. And then with me and my dad, I had 28 years on one day because he's May 2nd and I'm May 3rd. And so it was just like so like exact. And then, like I did that ceremony and in Canada to cut any connection to my family lineage of the witchcraft and stuff.
What did you want to do differently, if you don't mind me asking?
It's because I saw my great grandaunt how she became like this Snow White witch. She used to do manipulation magic, and so she used to have people come to her and ask for little jobs, and so if they wanted to get someone out of the way, or if they wanted to get something, it was all this manipulation magic, which is just this really cheap, like, and I could see because when it was my first communion, she came to the house for the big communion party. I barely ever saw her. I only saw her a few times in my life. But she was completely hunched like this, had no hair, had to wear a wig. The wig was like falling off. I could see like her scalp, and her skin was like right on the bones and everything. And I was like so shocked because later at 20 years old, when I started getting initiated, because I did that initiation of myself, that ceremony to cut this lineage. And then the very next year, I started being given all the books. I was given the Mayan calendar for free, all the Toltec books for free, all the sacred sexuality books. Like everything was given to me for free within a time frame of 6 months.
Wow.
And then I read that and I saw that and wow, and I started practicing and right away got celibate and right away I started doing lucid dreaming, right away I started recapitulating, right away I started practicing the main calendar. It's like right away, like I didn't even have to like be convinced. Mm-hmm. And I was like, from the first second I ever connected with this, I was like, what? This is it. Completely. And so I was so into it. And then I started to see what the Toltec teachers were like. They were like 100 years old, freaking climbing mountains, as powerful as ever, lucid dreaming, doing all this amazing stuff. I was just like, but all the time they were always service to the divine. Service to the divine, total submission, no personal desire, complete surrender, no personal want. Even though the predilection is always there and you're always yourself and you have your sense of humor, or you have your desires, or the things that you love, or the food that's your favorite, but that doesn't mean that I am doing everything for my personal benefits. Right. No, I am here present and witnessing and available and doing work on myself so that I will be an efficient instrument for spirit. Divine. You know, so that I'm actually useful. You know, so that I'm actually workable, so that I actually have range, you know, that I can be a vessel. Yeah, so that I can actually be a vessel. Mm-hmm. And so when I started seeing that, I was just like, yeah, no, my aunt wasn't doing that. No, she was definitely doing it for money. Mm-hmm. No, she was doing it like a job. Yeah. No, and so and also a job for hire. No, it's like being a hitman for hire. Mm. It's just like, well, I didn't want to kill the guy, but I still shot him. Right. No, it's just like, well, that's very weird. No, yeah. It's like, no. So I was not into that. And so then all of a sudden now this whole different thing came to me and it was all given to me. And because I was so into it, then it became effortless and it's more like an obsession. No, it's been 27 years and I haven't been able to stop. No, like everything is
incredible. Yeah, it's incredible. And there's two things I want to ask, but before I'm gonna just ask them, because I love what you're saying, like, you know, being of service to the divine, and I want you to elaborate more on that, for people to have an understanding of what the difference is, like, and how to even understand the difference, like how to feel the difference.
Well, first of all, definitely that's why I offer the ceremonies and the readings, because there's a lot of our social conditioning that needs to get flushed out. Mm-hmm. Because of all those anxieties, all those prejudices, all those different mental structures that were handed down of who we are, what we're supposed to do, who we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to behave, you know, and it's like, what is society expecting? What is your industry expecting? What is, you know, reasonable for you to do? And so when we are with those things really firmly in place, it's impossible to feel what spirit desires of you, because it's already all filled in with everything else that is all just passed down from all these people that are really not living a sacred life, you know, and so doing all the recapitulations and the flushing and the different transmutations and alchemizing our past, our story, then starts making you more available over time. Obviously, this is something that is like a wine. No, like it takes a while. Yeah. Like there cannot be any pressure on oneself to freaking get it together, do it. No, like there cannot be a goal. If we start creating stress and anxiety about having to be a vessel or having to, you're never gonna be a vessel, because you're so stressed out all the time. You're just gonna be stressed out, right. You know. And spirit is subtle, but it's not so subtle if you're listening or if you're paying attention, or at least if you are quiet. No, at least if you don't have your own agenda, other than maybe the agenda to serve. No, so if you first of all just want to be useful, which can start just by waking up in the morning, seeing the floor is dirty and sweeping it. No, because it's really like, oh, there's dirty dishes. Let me do them. No, so it starts by being useful in the basic things. No, we cannot expect to be useful in beautiful, divine, spiritual ways if we're not even useful cleaning the toilet.
Right.
You know, and so those are the things that bring into submission. Surrender. Be humble. No, be humble and also connect to nature. Sleep outside, go camping, spend time sleeping under the moon, under the stars, allow for the sunrise to wake you up, you know, like be connected to the elements, swim naked in the river, climb naked up the tree, eat outside, you know, be barefoot, like just
experience life.
Yeah, it's like we have to be wild again. We have to, and even if you then wear your stilettos and go to the club or whatever, but there has to be a raw connection that is unfiltered and untamed and undomesticated, because a true vessel is not a vessel of humans. It's not a vessel of human conditioning and human indoctrination. No, like you have to be completely undone so that you can then be in that wild. Your instincts can begin to flourish and your intuition can begin to flourish. And it can also come just with the dancing and with making the bonfire. And then, you know, yes, sometimes you can do, you know, the peyote ceremony or ayahuasca ceremony or do a powerful LSD journey to freaking shake up the foundations. But that's not really gonna get anything done. No, the real thing is to also then be like, okay, what are the practices? But because without the practices, if you're not doing the practices that are time tested over millennia, then you're just playing with fire, because you can just waste your whole life thinking you're investing your time into something that's going to be fruitful, but you're going to be just as stuck as the first day you started.
For people who are in like dense cities or have dense amount of distractions or aren't in locations where they can really tap in to nature so quickly, how can they get started? Like, if they're ready, if and the reason why I bring up those cities, because sometimes the density, you don't even realize that there's a whole other dimensional world or something, you know. But you can sometimes these people who, I know for me, you can kind of feel like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm fed up with this lifestyle. How would you say, how, like, do you have any guidance or advice for them? You know, and that's one of my questions. And then another question I have is, because your work is so dynamic, and I wanted to use the term advanced as well, only because of the advancement of wisdom and light that you have, you know, to offer. Who who can come and receive from you your services? Like, who would you recommend to come and receive the readings? Like, who do you think is ready? Also, you know.
Well, I think the most like powerful connections I've had and the most powerful results I have seen in people are with people that are already on the path. People that are already surrendered to the fact that they have a divine calling, even if they might not know exactly what it is, and that they want to be completely on the path. So people that already feel, I am here to be a warrior. I am here to undo my conditioning. I am here to totally claim my divine purpose. Now, I want to be useful. I want to be of service. Definitely, that perspective there is already like the most beneficial perspective to have, especially if they're willing to sacrifice anything for the sake of transformation. Now they're like, I'm not attached to anything.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. You really
It's
have
like,
to
anything can go. And then really anyone that wants to get to know themselves better, because even if you just start with a Mayan reading, just to get to know yourself better, just to understand your purpose better, just to understand your timing and what are the different parts of your nature that will be important for you to transform. for you to look at, for you to become aware of. And then that can follow into being able to do your recapitulations, your specific ceremonies, and then obviously keep progressing in a way that is truly, like allowing you to become the person that deep down inside, that in your core, you were created for this. Like I know I was created for this. Like there's not any doubt in my being that I was designed specifically with all the specific attributes, talents, traumas, life story, everything, to be this and to serve people in this specific way and to be able to support people through this without feeling pity, without feeling like any kind of alignment, because without becoming identified with people's pain or darkness or whatever.
Right, right, because you have empathy, you can feel, but also now to know that it's not yours.
And that's also not something like I don't feel sorry for you because this is what you're having to transmute.
Wow, it's beautiful. Because it just is.
Yeah, and if you didn't have this to transmute, you would have something else. Because the art of transformation and the art of becoming a divine vessel is alchemy. And this alchemy requires something to alchemize, just like lead is alchemized into gold, poison alchemized into medicine. This is the journey here. And if you have been born, and if you want to manifest your divine destiny, and if you want to get to know your divine purpose, and if you want to surrender to the divine, and if you want to stop thinking you know better because you don't, then the path of humility is to recognize that everything I think I know about myself and how I have been described to myself by others is fallacy. It's folly. Wow. It's misunderstood. It's not true. And without that developing into animosity or hate, even though you can feel hate and you can feel animosity, which is also sometimes something that is needed in order to break free from the things that we build codependent dynamics with. So that's where all the feelings are blessings, all the emotions are sacred, and it is just the proper practices that then allow for the alchemy to take place.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Wow, so amazing. Incredible.
I know.
Well, I am very grateful that you shared your wisdom and your beautiful gifts with us today.
Thank you.
Do you have any last words, anything else you'd like to share with our viewers today?
Well, just that I am so blessed that we're here together, and I know that there are many stories circulating in the world that are trying to tell us that the doomsday is approaching and that all this darkness is swallowing us up. And I just want to say, it's not true. We are divine consciousness, and this is a realm of divine quantum dream matrix, which doesn't mean it's fake. This is pure divine love power. And the universe is raw, intense power. So who we are is projection of consciousness. So the stories that come into our consciousness and that we listen to all the time become the reality that we project. So in many ways, the stories of the shadow coming from the stories of like what's happening to the children and the men and the women and all these things, or the wars and the earth and the climate and all that stuff, it's irrelevant whether they are true or false. It's irrelevant. What is relevant is that by repeating, and hearing and listening and being shown the images and the different things and people having their reactions and blah, 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 that is the predictive programming. That is some people trying to put those expectations into human divine consciousness so that they can come true. Because without the human divine consciousness factor that is getting poured into, those realities cannot manifest.
So good. So good. Oh my goodness. So divine. That's what you want to say?
Yes, that's it. Thank you very much. I love you all. We're actually moving into divine blessings.
Oh my goodness. Divine love, divine consciousness, divine blessings. It was a blessing to have you here. Thank you so
Thank you so much, Ahym. You're so beautiful.
I love you so much.
I love you so much too.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for watching and staying
Thank you.
tuned. And you can definitely please let them know again where they can find you.
Oh yeah, my website, aieshacosmos.com, and my Instagram, Aiesha Cosmos, and the same on Facebook, and my WhatsApp, 984-745-7500, and that is Mexico code.
Yes, and her readings, her ceremonies, and her products are available. So please, if you are ready, you know where to go. Awesome.
And I will love to meet you, and I will be so pleased to serve.
Such a gift. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Namaste. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful day. Blessings all around.